Books have played a very important role in Jeff Bezos' life, and not just because Amazon, the company that made him a multi-billionaire, originally started as an online bookstore and has since acquired several smaller bookstores. Bezos is also an avid reader, and his love of reading has greatly influenced him as a leader. In his biography, The Everything Store, Jeff Bezos and the Age of Amazon, author Brad Stone explores the ways in which books have shaped Bezos' leadership style and his entire way of thinking. Stone also reveals that there is a list of books Amazon employees refer to as Jeff's reading list. This list includes autobiographies, business and technology books, as well as novels. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at 10 books that influenced Jeff Bezos on his way to becoming a billionaire. First up is the book Built to Last: Successful Habits of Visionary Companies by Jim Collins, which Jeff Bezos has called his favorite business book. The book can easily make you forget your surroundings as you read, but more importantly, this book was the key element in building Amazon the way the company is built. Built to Last demonstrates how a company's identity basically guides it to success. In a 6-year research project at the Stanford University Graduate School of Business, James C. Collins and Jerry I. Paras studied 18 outstanding and long-lasting companies in direct comparison to one of their top competitors. They took a close look at the companies, studying them from their beginnings as small startups to mid-sized companies to the present day as large corporations, all with the ultimate goal of finding out what makes a company truly exceptional and distinguishes it from its competitors. In the process, the author also took a look at the common practices these enduringly great companies followed throughout their history, providing countless specific examples and ultimately presenting readers with a master blueprint for building successful companies that are truly built to last. A book by a video game designer doesn't exactly sound like something the CEO of the world's biggest retailer would read, but according to Brad Stone, Creation, Life, and How to Make It by Steve Grand was influential in the creation of Amazon Web Services, or AWS, the service that popularized the notion of the cloud. Grand almost single-handedly produced Creatures, a revolutionary computer game in which players can create living beings, complete with brains, genes, and hormonal systems that live and breathe and breed in real time. In his book, Grant talks about the insights he acquired in writing the video game and proposes an answer to the question his game raised: what is artificial life? Before publishing his book Good to Great: Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't, author and business consultant Jim Collins briefed Amazon executives on many of the principles he talks about in the book, so this is another pretty obvious choice for the list. As Brad Stone writes in his Jeff Bezos biography, this book explains that in order to be successful, companies have to confront the brutal facts of their business, find out what they are uniquely good at, and master their flywheel, in which each part of the business reinforces and accelerates the other parts. Collins' book Built to Last, which we mentioned earlier, dealt with the defining management study of the 1990s and showed how great businesses will achieve great success over time, and how they can build long-term sustained performance into their DNA right from the get-go. Good to Great, on the other hand, deals with companies that don't have success in their DNA right from the start and focuses on how good, mediocre, and even bad companies can still achieve long-lasting success. In The Innovator's Dilemma, author Clayton Christensen argues that companies will become better if they embrace disruptive innovation, and many consider this book inspiring, with Michael Bloomberg, founder and CEO of the eponymous company, once describing it as absolutely brilliant. This book has had great influence on many companies, Amazon included. As Stone writes in his Bezos biography, some companies are reluctant to embrace disruptive technology because it might alienate customers and undermine their core business. But Christensen argues that ignoring potential disruption is even costlier. The principles Christensen describes in The Innovator's Dilemma are those that Jeff Bezos and Amazon acted on and that facilitated the creation of the Kindle and Amazon Web Services, as Stone reveals. So this book definitely helped Bezos and his business take things to the next level. Lean Thinking, Banish Waste and Create Wealth in Your Corporation by James Womack and Daniel Jones is yet another best-selling business classic that Jeff Bezos found very inspiring. This book by two internationally renowned management analysts explores how major American, European, and Japanese companies essentially created a new business system for the 21st century that overrode the mass production system of companies like Ford, the financial control system of Sloan, and the strategic system of Welch and GE. They did this by applying a series of lean thinking principles designed to cut costs and boost efficiency in an attempt to survive the 1991 recession and then grow over the rest of the decade. As opposed to constantly reinventing business models, lean thinkers focus on the basics and look at what the customer actually perceives as value while systematically abolishing everything else. However, lean thinking doesn't offer anything like a new management program for the short-term manager, but rather provides readers with a new method of thinking and doing for the serious manager who is in it for the long term. Bezos has said that he learns more from novels than nonfiction, and his favorite book is Kazuo Ishiguro's novel, The Remains of the Day. It is a first-person narrative told by Stephens, a butler who, at the end of 3 decades of service, recalls his time serving at Darlington Hall, a stately home near Oxford, England. While spending a day on a country drive in post-World War II England, Stephens reminisces about events during the 1920s and 1930s, reflecting on his unshakable loyalty to Lord Darlington, who had hosted lavish meetings between German sympathizers and English aristocrats in an effort to influence international affairs in the years leading up to the Second World War. Stephens wonders if he dedicated his life and soul to a truly great gentleman, having doubts about the true nature of Lord Darlington's greatness as well as about the nature of his own life. Jeff Bezos has stated that this novel is perfect, and he would recommend anyone to read it because it teaches pain of regret so well you will think you lived it. Sam Walton, Made in America, is Walmart founder's autobiography, which tells the story of how he turned a single dime store into the largest retailer in the world. Walton's book is filled with anecdotes and the rules of the road of both Main Street and Wall Street, as the merchant king of the late 20th century talks about the inspiration, heart, and optimism that allowed him to live the American dream. In the process, Walton also details the principles of discount retailing and discusses his core values of frugality and a bias for action, a willingness to try a lot of things and make many mistakes, as Brad Stone writes in The Everything Store. And since Jeff Bezos included both in Amazon's corporate values, this is yet another book that had great influence on the founder and CEO of Amazon, the company that recently overtook Walmart as the largest retailer by market value. The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb is one of those books that allows you to escape, so it isn't really surprising that it is among Jeff Bezos' favorites, because according to him, the key thing about a book is that you lose yourself in the author's world, as he told the Washington Post. In The Everything Store, author Brad Stone reveals that when he first approached the Amazon CEO for his permission to write the book, Bezos asked him how narrative fallacy could be avoided, which refers to the process of turning a complex series of circumstances, happenings, or life events into an oversimplified story, by putting it into logical order to process things more easily. While this is an important function to deal with everyday life, it also means that people are wired to find patterns in chaos, but tend to be oblivious to unpredictable events, as Nassim Taleb argues in The Black Swan. This is exactly what Bezos likes about his book, as it tries to find answers for the fact that humans don't acknowledge the phenomenon of highly unlikely events, so-called black swans, until after the fact, despite nearly our entire world being made up of these phenomena, from the rise of religions to events in our own personal lives. Jeff Bezos considers The Effective Executive by Peter F. Drucker so important that he once made his top executives read this book to get a better understanding of how he was building Amazon. As the title suggests, The Effective Executive is concerned with building personal habits of time management, and also educates executives on how to stay productive and contribute their best to the company by reminding them that they need to make sure they get the right things done. If executives fail to do this, then all their intelligence, imagination, and knowledge could be wasted, according to Drucker, since they wouldn't get the results without the acquired habits of mind and 5 practices essential to business effectiveness: managing time, choosing what to contribute to in the organization, knowing where and how to mobilize strength for the best effect, setting the right priorities, and eventually knitting all of them together with effective decision-making. Last but not least is a book that Jeff Bezos doesn't just recommend, but actually requires his executives to read, since it's about a manager entrusted with the task of turning around a failing manufacturing plant. The Goal, a process of ongoing improvements by Elia Goldratt, encourages companies to identify the biggest constraints in their operations and then structure their organizations to get the most out of those constraints, as Brad Stone writes in The Everything Store. As mentioned earlier, Bezos believes novels can teach him more than nonfiction, so it isn't surprising that he doesn't just expect his executives to read classic business books, but also put this novel on their must-read list. Stone calls The Goal an exposition of the science of manufacturing written in the guise of the novel, and while it may not seem like a common plot for a bestseller or like a book that would inspire billionaires and business magnates, this gripping novel actually achieved both and transformed management thinking throughout the world in the process. Be sure to comment down below and let us know if we've missed something. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell to never miss an upload. Thank you very much for watching.